Hello Taurus, this is your extended reading. So are you ready to explore a little bit more of the tricky thing that was very mysterious in the first part about dealing with the awareness that amplifies because you are in this state of just spontaneity and joy and bliss. Bliss is something that came through actually here in the extended, and it's almost like the instructions how to maintain that state of bliss, because that is what keeps you grounded, but also that is what motivates you and especially like feeds your creativity. And it's almost like there is something that you are feeling like you feeling like you're lacking something, or are you feeling like you have done something wrong, or are you judging yourself, right? It's almost like do not let this self-consciousness interfere in your self-awareness, because you have this strong ability, I have to say, Taurus, being this earth sign, to find stability in your determination. It's almost like you are growing stronger by being consistent, and this is what is keeping the rhythm going, that is allowing you to have access to these higher frequencies, right? So what we're talking about here in the extended, we're opening up with another Wands card, but it's the Four of Wands, right? So interesting how this is talking about just flowing naturally, spontaneously, having fun, enjoying what you're doing just like a child plays, right? It's like you're playing with yourself. But most of all, it's like you're forgetting about yourself and you're playing with the environment, or you're playing with your path, or the things that show up along the way. And it's almost like you are so immersed, right, that you lose sight of your ego, of your personality, of your self-consciousness, right? So here with the Four of Wands, well, this is a beautiful card in traditional tarot for itself, right? It's the 1111, it's the reunion card. But this, well, this reunion, I should say, would be with yourself, right? With this spontaneous self. So this was talking about maintaining a state of bliss, your internal self coherence or self cohesion, right? This is how to keep yourself grounded. It's almost like this first card is like whenever you feel like you are melting down, or that you're falling, or that you're being stretched to a point that, you know, the point of contact with your divine self or with the higher realms is thinning, or is becoming like a very narrow point, right? Or a narrow channel. This is the point of recovery in a sense, but recovery not not through self-consciousness, right? But through cohesive moving. I was like, you know, whenever I'm in doubt of what the message is, some words pop into my head, and it's almost like I'm flipping through a library, right? And the one that fits best is the one that I know it's the message that it's bringing. So this energy is not talking so much about groundedness in a way that you have to keep still. It's almost like you have to move, you have to keep on beating this drum, right, to keep the rhythm going, because in a sense that is what is giving you the access to this full wisdom, right, to move with truth, right, to follow this rhythm of truth. But in order to do so, it's like it is really important that you find this sense of bliss, this sense of cohesive bliss. So what I mean by that is like a consistent joy, right? It's not something that has its ups and downs. It's almost like this very balanced bliss, right? And it's not something that is out of this world. It's not ecstasy or inebriation. It's not that. It's more like a very soothing, calming bliss that just continues, right? And so, although yes, this part is explaining me a lot more than I could see in the first part, there is still a tricky part to it that is coming through this line here, because it's showing me two very different scenarios. So we have the Knight of Cups, the Tower, and the Queen of Cups. So the first scenario that I was seeing was talking about you following a mission, right? We saw that when it changed from the Seven of Swords to the Six of Swords, it's almost like every cell in your body or every perception that your spiritual backup, right, was now moving in a very sharp direction and very fast. So this is where you enter this mode of mission, right? Of a mission to find coherence again, but not coherence that is aimless, right? It's like, it's coherence of joy, of bliss, right? Of happiness and fun and just enjoyment, right? And spontaneity and creativity and all of these beautiful things that these words keep just flooding my mind. So it's all of that, right? Blended together. But here there is some sort of mission that you have to remove yourself from, well, either a comfort zone or a place where you feel like you are at home, right? Because there is somebody there that it's almost like they are the symbols of what you should be and maybe what you're not yet. So, you know, for instance, if this, so this is the first scenario, right? And you'll know which one it will apply. I'm going to talk about the second one later. But the first one is talking about removing yourself from a place you call home, because in that place, there is somebody that it's like this is a very high standard for you to follow. Maybe we're talking about the Empress that showed up in the first part and being a little bit shy of your power, or here it's coming through much more as if like, if you were to step into the shoes of this one, it would be like a very high level responsibility perhaps, right? And there's something that you need to explore outside of that space or that home, right? So it doesn't mean that it's negative or that she is imposing anything on you. It's almost like this Queen of Cups, you know, if it's a mother figure or if it's your boss or if it's a colleague or whatever they represent for you, Taurus, it's like they are really elevating the standard, right? So maybe you are questioning if you have, well, if you feel like sometimes you lose this connection with the higher realms, it's almost like maybe you're judging yourself or you're condemning yourself or self-judging, right? In a way that maybe you see yourself incapable of fulfilling the role that they play, or, you know, maybe in the future. So there is this indication in the first scenario that there is a mission outside of this comfort zone that is going to benefit you, but it has to be fed by self-love and self-compassion. This is what the main thing is for this Knight of Cups, right? This is what is truly guiding your courage in a sense, or your mission, right? To leave this very cozy home, right? This very loving environment, right? So this is the first scenario. The second scenario that may fit you, or, you know, the both of them can, you know, blend together, but I'm seeing them as very differently. So this Knight of Cups, instead of coming out of the home, It's actually going into the home and becoming the queen. So maybe we're talking about two stages, right? So first you have to remove yourself because you see yourself as, maybe comparing yourself too much and self-conscious of maybe what is the expectation of the role that you will have to fulfill in a maybe near future. So maybe that's the first part. But if we're talking about now coming back, right? Or even if you didn't have to do that first part of leaving, right? If you are already, moving or marching very diligently towards a place where you feel at home, where you feel like you are protected, where you feel like you can exercise this self-love, the self-expression, the self-compassion, right? It's almost like this is the mission that you have to undertake in order to find again this state of bliss, right? This sense of cohesion that fuels everything in you, that fuels your spontaneity, that fuels your joy, your creativity, right? Everything that we were talking about. So this second version or this second moment or this second scenario is it's almost like an internal thing, right? It's like now you have to look inwards because, if this is not a physical place, right? But usually your home is a little bit of an extension of who we are, right? Our body. But either way, it's just this metaphor of moving inside. And that is what is, it's almost like this nurturing phase that is going to make you give this, make you take this step up, right? It's like now you are ready to take on the role of the Queen of Cups, right? It's like now the mission is complete. So these are the two scenarios that are coming here. And I have to say that, I was like very intrigued because I don't feel like, with the same three cards, I ever saw two very different meanings. But this next line that is actually ending this part of your reading is very, very interesting because it's like, well, maybe we're talking about this, right? That is so amazing. Okay, so this card was ending the first part of your reading, remember, Taurus? And it was almost like there was this splitting because if you sensed like internally or emotionally or psychically even, right, you had cohesion, you had a locked in structure, not locked in meaning that it was immovable, it was just providing you with the necessary cohesion and coherence so that you could establish the connection, right? You could maintain the access, right? It's almost like here when you keep on with this rhythm that you found because of your spontaneity, it's like you found the perfect rhythm to establish a very powerful connection to this higher intelligence, to this higher wisdom that is giving you the truth, and the truth is moving you. The truth is, well, helping you or empowering you with this ability to play with truth, to play with the movement that this rhythm of truth provides you with. And suddenly, if you are too self-conscious, right, instead of self-aware, which is so incredible to me, the play of words, that's also the thing, right? Playing with the movement, playing with the words, it's all about playfulness. But when you become too self-conscious, there's something that it's like you lose this coherence, and there is this stretching, right? It's almost like detaching or unplugging or deactivating, because if here all of the, it's almost like I can see all of the, it's almost like the points of connection, right? There's an image that I find so beautiful from the movie Avatar. and is when, you know, the avatars, they connect the tails, and it's like a very strong bond, but it's almost like a very neuron based connection, right? This is what I'm seeing with the Four of Cups. This is what coherence is, right? When all of the connections are made and they are activated to the point that you have, you know, unlimited access to that higher dimension. But when the self-consciousness steps in, this is when the point of connection thins, or, you know, is like narrowed, or it's stretched to the point that is now just a little point of connection instead of all parts connected. Does it make sense? So because here we are talking about how to establish again a very cohesive state of bliss, right? How to keep that going, how to keep that in a very structured kind of way, or in a very balanced kind of way, something that is reliable, something that is solid in a sense, but not solid to the point that is stuck or is immovable, right? There is a lot of movement. This is also something that is coming here in the last line of your reading, and I just saw it 16. But what we're talking about here, well, 16 is the number of tower, right? That is interesting. So there's something that happens when you go out or when you go in this tower that is helping you to find this bliss again. And you have reassurance in a sense from the flock of birds. Oh my god, I cannot hold any card today. I don't know what's going on with me. So remember with the Seven of Swords in the first part, I saw this beautiful flock of birds flying together, and it's like being one mind but divided into several beings, right? But this is you knowing that this spiritual backup is there moving alongside with you. When you embark on this mission of, perhaps we're talking about, you know, practicing more consistently self-love, self-compassion, self-expression, right? But coming from a place of, well, it's interesting, the self-compassion now it's talking about like forgiving yourself from sometimes losing the connection, or not losing entirely, right? There is still this tight bond, but it's like, it's just that it's been narrowed and temporarily, right? This is what this extended is talking about. It's like there is a way that you can find yourself back to a very coherent connection, right? Because it's attached not only to your heart, but also to this soul connection that is creation, that is movement, right? So here with the Five of Cups followed by the Knight of Swords, and then the Nine of Pentacles. But let's talk about these two first. So when you find yourself in this mission, right, and very, like, not stubborn, but it's like, well, Taurus can be very stubborn, but it's almost like very determined. That's the best word. It's like you are very determined that this is the way to go, right? And you know that, you know, there are very big responsibilities that you have to fulfill, or that you are being called to fulfill, right? It's like you are not only being called to fulfill this duty of the Queen of Cups, but, you know, if you remember the Empress showing up in the first part, it's like you are the Empress, so you're being called to step into those shoes, right? And so it can be maybe overwhelming, or, you know, just a lot of pressure, right? And a lot of pressure from yourself. So this Five of Cups was talking about, make that a little bit less important, right? That, yes, that is the place for you. Usually the fives to me indicate like a very specific spot, and that is, it's like your spot here as the Queen of Cups, or as the Empress that we saw. So yes, you are meant to fulfill this role, right? To step into this position, meaning achieving like mastery in self-love, in self-compassion, in forgiveness, in self-expression. It's like finding the coherence with your heart and being a master in keeping that flowing, right? So this is the place. But if you consider yourself already, like if you aim to higher, if you already see yourself as fulfilling such a high standard, it could be like a very nerve-wracking thing, right? So the Five of Cups is encouraging you to see it as something that is just meant for you, right? It doesn't have to be like this incredible responsibility that you have to answer to. It can be just something that you are prepared for, right? And you are doing the right thing. You are taking the right steps, right? It's like it's something that you fit in. You fit in, right? And this Knight of Swords here, remember when we were talking about the Ace of Swords and the Seven of Swords? It's like once you access this higher truth and you move together with the rhythm of truth, it's like you receive a backup. You receive angels or, you know, spirit guides that are there flying with you and helping to elevate or maintain that elevation, right? Maintain the higher frequency, right? This is what this Knight of Swords is talking about. Once you decide, well, yeah, it's a little bit of a decision, but it's like a very conscious decision that you want to find that state of bliss again, right? And when you do so from your heart, it's something that it's truthful for you. So the determination comes in easily, right? And especially when you have this reassurance that, well, coming from the other side, right? This Knight of Swords is talking about this backup, right? The spirit guides or the angels or whatever word you want to call this help, right? That is coming from this higher dimension that you accessed, you know, or that you had once accessed but then lost connection with, but not fully, right? Here they are. It's almost like they're saying, yes, we are still here. We didn't leave. We never left. The point of connection was still there, even though you thought you were being separated from it, right? And so here they are saying, if you see yourself as just meant to be in that place, that will make it easier for you to fulfill it in a way that doesn't calcify the joy or doesn't. This Nine of Pentacles coming next, it's almost like they are coming in with the right simple guidance to help maintain that elevation, right? To keep you in this high frequency, right? Because you are already doing the first step. You are already, in a way, going through a tower moment, right? Going through maybe a reclusive moment or on an exploration, right? Going out of your comfort zone, that is talking about like you really trying at least, right, to fulfill this role. And because you had already found joy, because you already know what it's like to have this flow, this natural spontaneity that just integrates you with the environment, with the energies around you, that maybe, you know, and even more so if we're talking about nature and organic things or even pets or, you know, energies that are naturally just good, right? And beautiful and uplifting, right? The organic side of this is what helps you to feel integrated to it and keeps you from finding your way back to the self-consciousness or the self-judgment. So with the Nine of Pentacles, this has nothing to do with the Nine of Pentacles in traditional tarot. Actually, this is coming through as a second guidance. If the first guidance is to see yourself as ready and prepared for that position and for that mastery, it's like see yourself in it, right? With it, carrying it, stepping into it. But the second thing is like, do not let the spontaneity turn into something rigid or repetitive or something that is unnatural or artificial. It's important to keep it organic and flowy and just wild. Maybe we're talking about keeping yourself wild and experimenting. Otherwise, there is no playfulness, right? There is no playfulness. There is a lot of rigidity, right? So that is really, really interesting. And I feel like you managed to do so because, well, let me include already the bottom of the deck. It's the Six of Wands, right? So the Six of Wands, you know, all of the Wands card, the Nine of Wands, the Ace of Wands, the Four of Wands, and now the Six of Wands here at the end, it's like you managed to skip and hop in a way that you do not become too rigid or too robotic, right? Or too artificial. It's not something that it has a certain set of rules that you have to fulfill. It's almost like it can be like a joy to explore, right? Even the same terrain, right? The same garden, the same path. It's just a joy because nature makes it different in the tiniest ways, right? So let's see what the astrological runes have to add for you as a final guidance, Taurus. Oops. Okay. So we have Scorpio here. But the interesting thing is that Scorpio also showed up in yesterday's reading for Aries, and Scorpio is your polar opposite sign, right? So Taurus and Scorpio are this beautiful axis that we're talking about, but Scorpio being a very, well, it's coming through as like a threat. Actually, it's coming through as, you know, the possibility of you falling again into the self-consciousness instead of the self-awareness. But that's the interesting thing also, if we're talking about here finding again that state of bliss, these things cannot be a threat. These things cannot, you cannot be scared of yourself, essentially, right? This is what the Scorpio is talking about. Just really stop being scared of yourself or being scared of the mistakes that you have done in the past, because they weren't mistakes, right? It's almost like they were part of the experiment. You had to go through them to see that it was possible, right? So do not judge yourself in seeing only the negatives, the negative sides or the flaws or the things that you have done wrong, right? This is the flip side of the balanced Scorpio, right? So the imbalanced Scorpio can be very controlling, very negative, very, you know, it's just very low vibration. But on the other hand, the balanced Scorpio can be completely wise, very, very intuitive, but also very good at strategizing this mission on how to keep on doing this thing that requires a lot of determination, right? And there is this sense of being rebirthed, feeling refreshed, feeling like you have managed to come the other side and find again this state of bliss, right? And find the access to the truth, find the access to this wisdom that is opening up the doors to this higher realms. So do not judge yourself. Do not point out all of the things that you have done wrong, because they weren't. They were just experiences. They were just experiments, right? For you to play with. But now you know it, right? So it's part also of this play. It just needs to be fun again, right? So I hope this was insightful for you, Taurus. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.